Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Game Center Live, the variety live stream talk show from the NYU Game Center. Happy Halloween from all of us at the NYU Game Center. It's Tuesday, October 31st, and we hope you all have had a wonderful first half of the fall. Let us know in chat if you're dressed up at all this year for Halloween, and who or what you're dressed as. We want to hear it. First up on today's show today, this is the Game Center Live Halloween special, after all. So you are invited to the Game Center's own Midnight Society with BFA alumnus and current adjunct instructor Rowan Wood, who's here to tell us an NDA-safe game dev horror story in conversation with Professor Charles Pratt. Following them is something truly scary, and that's game industry news. Department Chair Naomi Clark is back with the Discourse and is joined today by visiting Assistant Arts Professor Karina Popp. That's coming up soon, but first, some announcements. Playtest Thursday is happening every Thursday this fall 2023 from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Come down to the NYU Game Center with your work-in-progress games and get feedback from fellow game makers. No game is too early in development for Playtest Thursday, and all types of games are welcome. Non-NYU guests are welcome to attend. To do so, fill out the link in chat. In case you missed it, the artist lineup for No Quarter 2023 has been announced. No Quarter 2023 will take place on Friday, November 17th from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. I'm actually not sure. I think it's actually until 11 p.m. Right here at 370 J Street. No Quarter is an annual playable exhibition where 4 newly commissioned works from leading artists working across games are debuted. Read about the artists involved in this year's exhibition at our website, and in the meantime, you can RSVP using the link in chat. Until No Quarter, we'll have a much needed and much quieter few weeks at the Game Center, but if you missed any of our several previous fall events this semester, or just want to go back and rewatch our live streams and lectures, you can find an archive of all of our recorded events at youtube.com/NYU Game Center. I'm going to post that link in chat as well. That's about it for announcements today. Without further ado, let's gather around the fire with Rowan Wood and Charles Pratt. Take it away.
All right, thank you, Logan. Yeah, I encourage everyone to check out our recorded events. We've been doing this a long time now, right? Like 13 years or something like that. There's a lot to get through. There'll be a quiz at the end of the semester. Welcome everyone. I'm here with Rowan Wood. This is going to be a little bit. We usually do like a kind of meet a student or an adjunct. We're going to talk a little bit about you before we dive into the horror. Maybe there are horrors we don't even know are coming.
I know some things about myself that I can answer.
Okay. So first off, who are you? What do you do here?
I'm Rowan. I went here. I graduated the really fun year of 2020. So, and now I teach here because that pipeline of you learn how to do game design.
Hey, all right. Yeah. moving on.
But yeah, I make puzzle games, and I try to make other games.
Yes. And what are you currently teaching?
I'm currently teaching Intro to Programming, which was I wanted to teach that since I went here, because I saw that people get out of the class and be scared of programming, and I was like, how can I make people not scared of programming?
Oh, yeah, speaking of scared, we're proctoring a midterm exam today, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're both teaching Intro to Programming, everyone. So
yeah,
if you want to be really scared, come to our midterm.
The spookiest.
Could you talk a little bit about your capstone project when you graduated? Tell us a little bit more about
your I worked on like a big 6-person team making a game called Rewilding, where we were like, it was all about like revitalizing nature after climate apocalypse. Learned a lot about how to work in a team and like how we had like worked in the game beforehand, so we'd been working together for like years. It's a good time.
Yeah. And you ended up so you became a solo developer after you left. You were one kind of while you were here as a student.
Yeah.
I remember you as a student, obviously.
Yeah.
But you were kind of a solo developer there. You are one now, and you mostly work on puzzle games.
Yeah. I'm like a quasi-solo developer, and then I'm not a solo developer. And that I work with my friend Parker Crandall. So I do like systems design for like all of our games, and he does the content. So it works pretty well because content's the worst thing to make.
That's the scary thing.
Yeah.
Content.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Actually making the game.
Exactly right. What can you talk about some of the games you've made since you graduated? Some of the games you're working on now, maybe one of the ones you released.
Yeah, so I released a game called Yarn. It's on Steam. You can buy it. It's $3. It should be $5. That's one lesson. Never release a game on Steam for less than $5.
Yeah, that just no one takes you seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
No one takes it seriously, and then the sales mean it's only $1. But that's like it's like an abstract puzzle game, like, which is what all my games end up being that actually exist. And then we ended up making that in like 3 months. So, and then game on Steam means you can get a job. So.
That's right. Yeah. So you do not support yourself entirely on your independent puzzle game design.
I make ads, like interactive ads that you find on in other mobile games.
Yeah. So you teach for us.
Yeah.
You make independent puzzle games, but you have to do client work. And I believe that's the basis of the story we're going to hear.
Yes.
A client job that you did. Do you wanna?
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready to be terrified.
We're back in the spooky year of 2020.
Yes.
Don't know
Remind
why
us what was going on in 2020.
This story starts right around when everyone was like, oh my God, all the big studios, all the big companies are backing out of GDC. It's going to be like an indie wonderland.
Right.
Little did we know. They were backing out for a very particular reason.
Right.
That would then lead to GDC not happening.
Right.
Around the same time, I saw a posting for an internship to handle the iOS builds for a game.
Okay.
And I was really hyper-fixated on making iOS games at the time. I was borrowing like a Mac Mini from the Game Center, and I was like, yes, this is gonna be how to do it. Anyways, I go and I talk to them, and it was a job interview where like right after the job interview, I just got it. Like they were like in the interview, he was like, yeah, you're good, go for it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then now I'm thinking back on it, I'm like, that was not a good sign.
Yeah. It's the equivalent of in a horror movie, people saying we should split up.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, cover more ground. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You're just giving me the job now? That's okay.
Yeah.
First red flag.
Yeah. So then the second thing is that it was a game maker game, which isn't necessarily a red flag, but it sets the stage, right? Because then I found out it was not only a game maker game in iOS, they had never done anything iOS before at all, and they were hiring an intern to do iOS for them.
Were you a paid intern?
Yes, I was paid, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're just an employee. You weren't really an intern.
Yeah, but they called it intern, which I think is important to the story.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So you're an intern.
Yeah, I'm an intern.
To make an iOS game in Game Maker.
Yes. And no one else besides me knows anything about how iOS works. So,
do they know anything about Game Maker?
They know somewhat about Game Maker. So
Okay.
these are like people who are like really into RPGs.
Okay. All right.
So then I find out it's not just an RPG, iOS, and Game Maker. It's a MMO RPG. So, yeah, and then that kind of lay dormant for like 2 months as they just made the RPG part until I found out none of them know how multiplayer works either.
All right.
And so
they don't know how it works in that like they've never implemented it, or they literally don't have a plan.
They don't have a plan and they never implemented it, right?
Okay. All right.
And so this is like April 2020. What's the month after April? May.
Yeah.
May 2020. Right. I'm graduating. Life's seeming a little bleak with whatever is happening at the time. Whatever that is.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to finagle my way. I'm going to do the multiplayer on this since they don't know how to. And I did it. I learned how to make a massively multiplayer game that runs through Game Maker on iOS. I had a room size of up to like 64 people.
Wow.
We never tested 64. The most we could test was 8. And that was largely because, despite me asking, we ran all of the iOS builds through my personal Apple account.
Wait, what? Say that again?
So, you need to so Apple developer accounts, right? It's like $100 a year.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give me like a company account to use because I don't even know they had a company, honestly. I know they were just some guys who were being paid by like someone else.
What was on your checks when you got paid? How did you get paid?
I was paid by the company.
Did they just give you some
them.
cash? No, of course not. You're not in person.
Yeah.
Did they PayPal you? What was happening?
It was PayPal. Yeah.
They just sent you some. Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely above board.
Exactly. I was absolutely above board. And so all this is being run through my personal account. So anytime there was an issue with like, what would happen is that like there would be like a stakeholder who was funding something who would want to be able to play the game. And so then I would be like, okay, I need to know their iOS account, their Apple account. And then I would send it to them, and then they wouldn't check it for like 2 weeks, and so it would expire, and then to send it again.
Okay.
It was all just going through my account.
Right. Had you ever met any of these people in person at this point?
The one time...
the one job interview.
The one job interview, which was at a bar.
Was at a bar?
Yeah.
And you were hired, before they got the check for the drinks? What?
It was after the
It was
check.
okay.
Yeah.
You got a text on your way home. Congratulations, you got hired.
It was March 1st, 2021.
March 1st.
Or 2020.
2020,
Yeah, that's important.
Great time. Great time.
Yeah, so another problem was before I was there were 3 developers, and they were all using Dropbox. They did not know how to use Git.
I use Dropbox. What's wrong with Dropbox?
So I'm not sure if you're aware that GameMaker's file system is essentially, the back end is just a giant JSON file.
I've heard this.
Yeah. So when you're merging people's content together, a lot of it is like being able to open the YYP file and just like finding all of the commas and all the parts where like 2 people's code just completely overrode each other.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So that also became my job. I was paid more slightly each time I got a new responsibility, but like.
As you became the only employee doing anything, it sounds like.
Well, no, they were all doing stuff. They were just doing what they knew. They weren't really.
What were they doing?
Right, it was an RPG, so there was like extremely intricate skill trees that I didn't understand. There was a complicated clothing and palette swap system that I didn't ever look into.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Okay, so you are setting up their accounts so that they can play test it.
Yeah.
On phones.
Yeah.
On phones. You're now the manager of all of the different versions of the game that have ever been written.
Yes.
Which are all stored on Dropbox.
No, the code itself is on Dropbox.
Itself is on Dropbox.
All the builds are on my Apple developer account.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And then one of the final things I did before they, spoiler, ran out of money.
Oh. No, they sounded so well managed.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I think part of it probably was all of the stakeholders, never checking the builds I sent them, so they never got permission, and then they didn't think it existed. Was I then was given the responsibility of the crafting system.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, cool, awesome, crafting system. At the very basis, that means I need a spreadsheet, right? You know, Alexander King, he's taught me well.
Yeah. Great.
And then I'm like, oh, well, they already have a huge clothing system and all these items. I should see what they're doing. They weren't. Their spreadsheet of information was a single. It wasn't really a JSON because it was just a struct in GameMaker that contained all of the knowledge of every single item so far in the game. And so every time they added one, they would just add. They
would just add a field to the single struct?
Yes.
The single item struct?
Yeah, it's the single struct of every single item in the game. And so I taught them, hey, not even a real database, right? Not even a MongoDB, which I was using for the multiplayer servers.
Okay.
But just hey, let's have a Google Sheet, and then let's organize it so that we can press a big button and it runs a script, and then it automatically uploads to the server, and then we can change what the items are and stuff.
Right. How'd that go?
It took a sec, but they got it, right?
Yeah?
So they were eager to learn. So kind of the other big problem was, here's another red flag, right? When you're, I was 22. When you're 22 and it's your first real job and the thing you want to do, you think, oh, hey, everyone is listening to everything I have to say. They believe me intrinsically and they'll do it.
Yeah.
You think that's the best thing in the world. And then months later, you realize, well, all of my knowledge is theoretical.
Right.
So
you don't actually know what you're doing.
Exactly. So anytime something worked out, great. I'm glad. But I wasn't I didn't know from experience. I just knew from what I had learned from people who did have experience. And so the fact that there was no one there double checking what I said and they all just kind of believed me. Not as great as you think.
Were you the most experienced developer on the team? Like, had any of them made games before this?
I think they had like a failed Kickstarter before that.
Oh.
So they like.
Wait, that's not a game. Hold on.
Well, that's my point.
Oh,
right?
I see.
I think they hadn't released.
So the answer is
anything.
no.
Always,
they had never. I see.
It's your standard, like you always get close. Which again, obviously, I hadn't released anything before that point. I would just like, put things on itch because school.
Right. Well, that's why we make people put things on itch.
Yeah, exactly.
Technically, you were a published game developer.
There we go.
So how did the project end? How did it all come to a conclusion?
So ultimately, ran out of money, and it didn't projects never run out of money cleanly, right?
Right.
So it ran out of money in that we did a month of work, they didn't pay us, and then we were like, do we keep working? We were like, no. And then we kept talking about, do we keep working? And the answer was no. We stopped. We're done.
That's at least healthy, though. I will say that like the real horror story is when a project limps along year over year, no one actually admitting that it's over.
Yes.
Right?
No, I agree. I agree. What also is crazy to me is that like months later, I found out that like the rest of the team, like besides like me and one other person, like just started working on their own game. And they never like messaged me about it or whatever. I'm not sure what the. I think they just were closer friends because they still lived in New York and I was like, I escaped upstate New York for the start of the pandemic.
Right. Yeah, as many of us did. So, what did you learn from this experience? This harrowing experience. Your first official job in the game industry.
Well, the first thing I learned is that I learned a lot more practical things here than I thought I did. My experience with like how I felt about what I learned at the Game Center has like changed throughout the years until ultimately I now very much feel like I learned everything I needed to learn. Well, at the time I was like, well, I don't know anything. Mostly because I took survival skills my senior year and it scared the hell out of me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But and then the other major thing I already said was, being given just like free reign isn't great. You need like something that's some sort of constraint. And I guess that constraint was money, but because I wasn't actually like in charge, I didn't know how much money we had. So I couldn't say, oh, we have 2 months left, here's the decisions you're making. I was making decisions based off of, well, this is poorly designed and poorly developed. Let's like make that better.
Yes. So you were part of this game coming out of undergrad.
Yeah.
You also had a capstone that was sort of working, not right, like
so
that capstone is.
We kept working on that capstone that year, and then we got incubated the next year. And then it's just been your standard like, without funding, it's hard to motivate yourself to work on a huge game.
Right, exactly. But you have published a couple of, at least one puzzle game since then.
I've published one puzzle game.
You're working on a couple.
Yeah, I'm working on too many at the same time.
Right. What's the secret? How did one of those games get done and the other ones didn't?
Motivation. So the reason that was published at all is because literally as soon as that job ran out of money, Parker and I were just like, okay, we want another job. How are we going to get it? And we're like, okay, well, I have Yarn, which is like a dumb prototype. Let's just like make a bunch of levels and put it on Steam. And then with the ad stuff, they literally told me, we hired you because of all the people who applied, you're the only one who had like a released thing. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So the students that are graduating next semester, right? That's the real horror. We just keep putting people out into the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are more coming in. It's never ending.
It's a treadmill.
I love them all, obviously. Yeah. But what is your advice to people going through the capstone process right now? And what would your advice be? Like, what should they be aiming for when capstone is done at the end of next semester? Like, what are the things they might not appreciate that are important? And what are the things that you feel like are common mistakes that you should have seen and didn't in your own time there?
Well, I'll say the mistake I see every single BFA make every single day is not participating in the community enough. Because you're paying for it, you're a part of it. That's half the point of college is knowing people. So not going to events, especially Playtest Thursday, because then you just like people play your game. Either it's broken, you can fix it, or hey, maybe they like it, and you get like you're just happier.
Yes. Yeah.
Maybe sometimes, I don't do this, but you go to Playtest Thursday with an already finished game just to have people play it and tell you it's good.
Just a little boost.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the other thing is, this is probably a hot take, but I think in terms of capstone, it's like, if either your capstone should be something where you can just say like, okay, cool, like the version we have when we're done is good enough for us to put it up somewhere. Maybe we keep working on it, but at the very least we can put it up somewhere so that people can play it and future employers can watch a video of it and see that it's published.
It existed, yeah.
Or if you want to, be artsy and go for your giant capstone that's like, going to take years to develop and you might get money for it, make a small game that you can then put somewhere and then people can watch a video of your finished game, because, right, the extremely common advice of finishing a game is the hardest part of making a game.
It's true.
Yeah. When we released Yarn, I didn't do aspect ratio stuff, so it just was on Steam, and then someone was like, "Hey, this is like really small on my monitor," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's because it's not." So the first fix was, okay, you can set.
It was like this big. It was like a little postcard.
Yeah, and it was in Unity, so there was really no excuse.
Right. Yeah.
I can build that for you.
That's my advice, is that once you get out of college, you realize there are no excuses. There's no no one cares about all the excuses.
Yeah.
So if your game is the size of a postcard, that's got to be on purpose.
Yeah. Although I do gotta say, so the most proud I've ever been in game dev was years after Yarn came out. Some guy posted a Steam review that was extremely detailed, that like listed like, this is actually a good game. They clearly abandoned it, which was like only technically true, and that we were working on it but didn't update it in the slightest. But they were like, it's actually like, it's really cool, it's really smart. They like followed our history, like we had like put it on Armor Games and everyone hated it in Armor Games, because turns out you can't have a no tutorial on Armor Games.
Yeah,
they don't like that.
They're used to some things and they need those things. Yeah,
you need that pointer. You need that little hand.
Exactly, like the hand. Anyway,
yeah.
What? So for those who are watching, perhaps that are going to be here next semester, though.
Yeah.
They might be freshmen right now.
Yes.
What are you teaching next semester that they might want to involve with?
Next semester, I'm also teaching Intro to Programming, which fun class. You learn to program, and then I'm teaching Intro to Game Development, which is where we take the stuff you learn from design, the stuff you learn from programming, and smush it together, so you actually learn how to like apply your design stuff in a technical space, because video games.
Yeah. Theoretically, that's what they are.
Yeah. Theoretically,
yeah. So what should people expect if they sign up for your Intro to Dev class?
Intro to Dev.
What kind of teacher are you? A horrifying one?
Yeah.
Scary?
Very spooky.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know what type of teacher I am. I mostly am just trying to get interesting content out of my students. Like, I more want them to experiment and actually try new things, as opposed to just like routinely like fulfill the assignment. And so I'm lenient in some places, mostly because I'm new as a teacher, but in other places I'm like, okay, well, like, I can tell you just didn't think. You didn't. It's art school. You need to like do something where I'm like, whoa, not like, oh yeah, you made a platform.
Yeah, the minimum is still the minimum.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you for coming on the show. That was that story could have been a little scarier.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, it was scary to me, but I think you have to go out into the world and realize how terrifying that was.
That's fair.
It must have been terrifying living through it.
Yeah.
Slightly overshadowed by the global pandemic.
I also had another client at the time that was also awful, but that's an NDA.
NDAs are the real terror. I just want to say that, everyone. The real scary thing is NDAs. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. And I think up next we have the Discourse with Naomi and Karina. So that's gonna be great.
Thank you.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you very much to Rowan Wood and Charles Pratt for that game dev horror story and nice little chit chat by the fire. We're going to take a little time to get set up for our next segment, so just give us a moment and bear with us, and we'll be right back. All right, we're ready to get started with the Discourse with Naomi Clark, who is joined today by Karina, Popp. Take it away, Naomi and Karina.
Hey, happy Halloween.
Hey.
I don't know if you can tell, I'm wearing a Halloween costume.
Oh, are you? What?
Yeah, well, I'm a really boring character. I'm Melanie Jones from the movie Coraline, who is Coraline's normal mother. Because my daughter is Coraline this year, and she insisted that I be the normal mom. I guess she's like trying to come up with something like an improbable Halloween costume.
That's adorable. That's great.
Yeah. And with me is Karina Popp, who, for those of you who don't know, is a visiting professor who started at the Game Center here this fall.
Hi.
And Karina has been part of the Game Center community for a long time. I think of your expertise as being multifarious. Like game studies and programming and design and vignette games and parody games, a genre that you discovered and investigated.
Yeah, no, that's such a flattering way to put it. I put it like I can't concentrate on one thing, and so I have to keep myself stimulated with a bunch of different topics and skills. But yes, I'm so multifaceted and interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a property of a lot of very smart people, that you're I'm interested in too many things. I have a hard time just settling on one. But thank you for joining me today. Yeah. I thought we would start off with a story that you suggested. I'm not sure if I would have noticed, but I was really curious about this. So Xbox and Microsoft apparently has this seal of approval for controllers. Mm-hmm. That's like an authorized Xbox controller, and now they're enforcing it.
Yeah. They also released a pseudo statement today where they're we're trying to streamline the console experience and stuff.
That's like a smokescreen or something.
Yeah.
What are they trying to do by locking down?
I'm really curious.
Yeah.
Apparently they started earlier in the year a third-party program that's third parties can make controllers, but you have to sort of go through us.
Right. We have to approve what you're doing. Okay.
And it's unclear. Is it just a money grab? Is it to clamp down on cheating?
Yeah, that's what I sort of thought for a second when I read this, that it was some sort of anti-cheating measure.
Yeah.
But I don't quite understand.
I feel the people who really want to cheat are still just going to be able to hack the firmware of their controllers and do it anyway. So I don't know. I was curious about this, and I thought it was interesting just because there's a lot of news about the software version of this a lot, and it was interesting that there was kind of a hardware manifestation of a company trying to consolidate.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't feel like console manufacturers in the past have had a whole lot of luck just locking things down ever since the era of the Game Genie.
Yeah.
That was the controversy from the 80s, right? It's what, you can plug this unofficial unsanctioned thing in and mess with the
Game Shark stuff, and it's
Game
sold
Shark,
on the same shelf as real products and stuff. Yeah. I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's go into Halloween-themed stuff. We've got a lot of horrific things today, but let's start with maybe the most fun. Five Nights at Freddy's. It came out, the movie. I didn't realize that Five Nights at Freddy's is now almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
So the movie was apparently a surprising hit. This is the New York Times kind of calling it a box office surprise and pointing out that Hollywood is so desperate for anything that's new and suddenly popular, that they're relying so much on sequels now. I guess that even though Five Nights at Freddy's obviously not a completely original thing, right? The game's been around for 10 years, but for Hollywood it's oh my god, something new. Let's rapidly roll out 10 sequels or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your impression?
I was not surprised, I guess.
Yeah.
I was sort of, the rumblings on various social media, was very clear, very a meme-y kind of excitement from older, younger people, if that makes sense. I'm going to dress up, I'm going to go to the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. There's this meme of the Smiths song, if a double-decker bus crashes into us, except they say if the Five Nights at Freddy's bus crashes into us, because there was a bus ad for it. So it's been a really big deal, and so I assumed it was going to do pretty well.
People got really hyped for it. Yeah, this article noted that 80% of the tickets were sold to people between the ages of 13 and 24.
Yeah.
Which is spot on, right?
Yeah.
People who are 24 were what, 15 when it came out, and the 13-year-olds were all 4 years old.
Oh God.
But yeah, like it's like everybody who grew up with this being the scary game that your friends were playing. Now it's like a huge draw to like go and have an event movie. And I think one of the reasons that they're saying that was really surprising was because it came out streaming at the same time, which everyone now assumes is like, oh, that's gonna depress turnout at the movie theater, especially for young people who like to stay home or whatever. But it was like, like you said, it was an event movie. It was like a meme to go there with your friends. What was that movie where people were showing up randomly wearing suits to it?
Minions?
Yes. So it sort of like reminded me of that. Like, I don't know why people were going to Minions all dressed up in suits, but I'm like, okay, that seems like why not? A good thing, like a reason to like actually go to the movie theater with your friends.
Yeah.
But anyway, congratulations, the Five Nights at Freddy's team. I guess there's going to be a bunch more movies. This was also, I think, maybe a really big opening for Blumhouse, the sort of schlock horror production company. They also had Megan earlier this year, which is another like, totally new thing that caught on with people. And I think it was one of the biggest movie openings ever for a woman directing a horror movie. So like cool. Applause for that. That's cool. And one of my friends, who's actually friends with a bunch of New York area games people, I'm going to shout out to Kira Breed Risley, who is the author of the Five Nights at Freddy's novel adaptations, which who knows may get tapped for some of the sort of like upcoming screenplays that are bound to ensue.
Is that canon, the novels?
I guess she co-writes them or ghostwrites them for the main designer.
Okay.
So it's like all like I don't know, a licensed story universe. I have to admit, I'm not like super into the Five Nights at Freddy's lore.
Yeah, me either. Yeah.
Yeah, but I saw, how is there really that much to know? Like, I kind of get the idea. Anyway, sorry for like any super fans who I'm disrespecting out there on chat. Let's go to the BBC's coverage. So the BBC had an article about horror games. There's a bunch of horror games coverage, obviously because it's Halloween, and yet I sort of feel like I don't know if I feel like I've seen this happening every year from like major media outlets.
Yeah.
Like, is it a new thing? Have we reached like another weird watermark in like mainstream media covering games and thinking like, oh, let's talk about scary games? So the BBC's idea here with this, with their headline was, have horror games entered a golden age? And it's basically an interview with Capcom, who are like the classic kings of horror on console, right? I don't know What's your thought? Horror games?
So I have to admit, I'm probably the worst person for this. I am what is scientifically called a big baby. I cannot really play.
Or does that make you the perfect audience?
I mean, I can like sit in my ivory tower. I will leave the room if there is a horror game present. Right. But there were some parts of this that I bought more than others. Like the part about the immersion bit, I was like, I don't really know if that's...
Games are scary in a different way, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
I think there is a difference, but I'm not sure if it's like this idea of fidelity that the Capcom people kind of try to go for, that like you're really in the space.
Right. Well, I remember being terrified of like pretty early... of early games, like Marathon, which we're going to come back to in a little bit. I found really scary when it came out in the 90s. And then the original Silent Hill was not like a very high fidelity game, right? But it was like you're wandering around on these foggy streets and like weird monsters will loom out of nowhere, and you're like, and that's kind of scary without having to have a whole lot of jump scare, because you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. The deep uncertainty maybe at the heart of games is really what's coming to the fore. But yeah, I don't know. I sort of think of it as like the recent golden age peaking with that with PT, the playable trailer, right? Did you ever see that? Or
I had to play it.
Oh, you had
at one
to?
point,
Okay,
and it was awful. It was the worst. But yeah, I definitely think so. I think a lot of part of that was also just like, and this article and the other one we're going to talk about touch on spectatorship. I think is a huge part of it, of like the pleasure of like watching other people get scared.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why I was thinking maybe you're the perfect person to watch play a horror game, because it's so pleasurable for everybody else to watch you getting freaked out. That used to be why we would have Maddie Bryce play horror games. She would just be like, But go to the next article. So this one I thought was interesting. So this is The Guardian, another big British media, and they've got Five Nights at Freddy's, right, because of the movie, and because it's an indie game. And their thesis in this article is, do indie developers make the best horror games? I guess because it's not so much about like high fidelity graphics, but yeah, creating this feel through various subtle things, or maybe it's sort of a parallel to like, I feel like what they're trying to say here is it's kind of like the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, that is kind of the vibe of this.
Yeah.
I agreed with it. Like when I just saw the title, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense because like, you know, like bigger outfits are going to feel a lot more pressure to not take risks, and there's kind of an inherent like discomfort and risk taking in horror. Right. Any media, like film, like the best horror films are the ones that are kind of like janky and make you uncomfortable with their jankiness. Right. And so indie developers are more, you know, in a better position to be able to take those kind of risks and make interesting things. I also think that like the audience is more forgiving for indie games, like if that makes sense. They're more primed for something that's a little bit weird and uncomfortable with an indie game, whereas with a more, you know, blockbuster kind of game, they're maybe not as ready for. I don't know. Yeah,
so people like Capcom, but like the Resident Evil, I feel like they liked it because there was a very tall woman who might step on them.
Vampire mommy.
Yeah, vampire mommy. And that's scary, but it's not scary in the same way as like a weird, janky, indie creepypasta game is. Yeah. Like I feel like there's such a connection to creepypasta or things where you're like, I'm on this website, I don't know what it is. It's like doesn't make sense. It's like glitching out. And yes, indies are good at that. Stuff that doesn't make sense is kind of glitchy. Yeah, and then you could just like make a Slender Man or SCP game or something like picking up from net culture, and that's so I guess I buy it. Yeah, there are reasons that it's synergizing in this moment. All right, we're going to now take a horrible left turn into actual real life horror. And talk for a moment about what is going on in the Middle East, because there are two strange ways that the conflict in Israel and Gaza has overlapped into games. The first is this very weird article from Reuters. They're reporting from Brazil, where they're talking to a mom who noticed that when her kid was playing a mobile game, suddenly an ad came up that said, wait, can you scroll down a little bit, Logan? I feel like there's like a really crucial line, like partway down in the article.
It's like all caps.
Yeah, it's in all caps there. We will make sure that those who harm us pay a heavy price. It's like flashes in like white on black after a whole bunch of disturbing footage featuring Hamas soldiers and explosions and gunfire and things like that. So the weird thing is, apparently this is a legit ad from Israel's foreign ministry. They were like, oh yes, we took out this ad. I'm not totally clear what message they're trying to send, other than like, let's just make sure all the gamers out there know that nobody can fuck with us. I don't know, but they were like, oh, we really tried to make sure it was targeted only to adults, which of course does absolutely nothing when you're just buying mobile ads, right? It's like, I think this kid was like playing Angry Birds or something.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just out there on one of these ad networks, and so it shows up, and so then it becomes a global news story. And then, I don't know what else to say about that.
I think that it's a lot of a pattern with kind of like Israel's PR strategy and sort of like their mentality towards like, you know, younger people having a lot of diverse opinions on this subject. And so like kind of trying to do manufacturing consent and not, you know, hitting the target with this. Because I don't know, in my head, it's like, oh, people who play games maybe don't support us, so we should target people who play games.
Right.
It's kind of in my mind. I also, there's something, basically. There's also something darkly humorous about a part of this that was just a bunch of finger pointing, that it was like Israel blamed the ad companies were like, no, talk to the game developers were then like, no, talk to the ad companies, and so like nobody knows precisely where the failure was here.
Right, like I guess in theory what the game developer was supposed to be like, no, don't show any adult ads on this.
Yeah, I believe now like they're manually blocking them, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah.
Like, so I guess they do have some kind of agency in what they do there, but yeah.
Sure, once the problem is spotted, there's like people can like put in a block, but yeah, still kind of wild. And then maybe I didn't think this next one was as wild. It's sort of like I would expect it. On the flip side, in Roblox, apparently there are a bunch of events. There's a tweet somewhere in this article that like I think has a video of a big Roblox protest, which is basically a whole bunch of Roblox avatars running around with Palestinian flags. There it is. They're just running along. And apparently this was organized by kids in Malaysia, Roblox players in Malaysia. And I don't know whether I attribute that to there are a whole bunch of people playing Roblox in Malaysia, which is also seems to be true, or the fact that it's like the particular position of Malaysia within global Muslim culture is like, okay, we are in a location where maybe our parents are not going to allow us to go out to a protest, so we're going to do a protest in Roblox. Anyway, yeah, like weird phenomenon. There's also some coverage of this where people are like, there are anti-Semites in Roblox, right? Although it's not totally clear, like from this video, it just seems like a bunch of Palestinian flags and avatars running around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess this didn't seem surprising that this would happen either.
No. Yeah. I did think there was something interesting because like part of like the sentiment of a protest in some way is to be obstructive, and so like metaverse style protests are usually not going to be, I guess, but like I thought it was interesting because you can just kind of like show up because it's a space, right? So you can still just like go there and hold a flag if you want to. Like there's like now like a set area to do this kind of demonstration.
Right, and actually I think Roblox put out a statement, right, where they were like, yes, like we do not allow hate speech, we do allow like rallies in support of things.
Yeah.
Right, and they were like, okay, yeah, so things like this must be happening all the time.
Yeah.
Probably some of them are like paid Roblox sponsorship money, but they're like, sure, yeah, we have every flag in the game, and you can make your own stuff and hold your event.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess this kind of thing used to happen on Second Life.
Oh, sure.
Which was like maybe the more adult version, and now it's all in Roblox where it's like kids. And it did occur to me like, oh, is this for the age range that like their parents won't allow them to like go outside to like one of the huge protests that are happening right now? It seems quite possible. Okay, let's move on to other kinds of real life horror. So I would like to say, I'm sorry and a huge bummer to everybody who was laid off from Bungie yesterday. This suddenly happened, and there was a lot of furor and hot takes on social media. It's not quite clear yet because this just happened exactly how many people Bungie laid off, but it came as a little bit of a surprise, I guess, because Bungie has been running for so long on Destiny, but now people are saying, oh, maybe Destiny is starting to get long in the tooth. Yeah, is that your impression?
I guess so. I have a weird reaction when things like this occur. That like I obviously feel terrible for the people that are affected by this. Yeah. But I always. This is just going to kind of keep happening a lot.
Well, it has been happening for so long.
I mean, the games industry has done this for so long. The tech industry currently right now is just doing it a lot of these mass layoffs anyway. And like my brain like doesn't even want to try to attribute like why Bungie as an individual entity did it. If that makes sense.
It's part of the huge wave, right?
And that like I don't know, like a solution to this or like some way to ameliorate this constantly happening needs to be like everybody's got to put their brains together and figure it out. I don't know.
Right. So there are huge outpourings of frustration on the internet, especially on Twitter, which seems to still maybe be the main place for people to be like incredibly pissed off about stuff. And I did notice some hot takes, a traditional subject of the discourse from friends of the Game Center like Meghna Giant, who was just here last week giving a talk, and pointed out in the tweet that she's quoting that there's just a huge amount of revenue coming into the game industry. It was sort of a record year, still kind of building on the successes of the 2020 to 2022 period when there was like a big growth in game revenues like that people attributed to the pandemic and people like not being able to go outside, right? But now for various reasons, I guess it's inflation and also just like a lot of companies contracting, right? Mm-hmm. Being like, oops, we hired too many people when we thought the industry was growing. But they're still making money hand over fist. And like, they're still incredibly highly compensated executives and so forth. And so I think the frustration that we see pouring out from a lot of people who are in the bigger part of the industry, right, is like, why does this keep happening? Even though games is supposedly, is the propaganda about games as a business is, oh, it's the most rapidly growing giant in entertainment media. It's eclipsing everything else. Just sort of, kind of not true. Like AAA is actually not that big, right? I don't know. Like, yeah, what do you think about the overall cultural phenomenon?
I don't know if this is entirely related, but it kind of reminded me of just like what's going on with the UAW tentative agreement. It was a very similar situation where, the union workers were like, oh, like these companies are now making so much money that like there was a great recession, and then, we kind of were okay with, taking less pay, less benefits, and now you're making a bunch of money, similar to how
right.
we're accusing these larger AAA companies and studios of doing. And in the case of the UAW, currently they've tentatively come to some kind of agreement that is getting them the pay and the benefits that they feel they deserve in relation
right.
to how much money the industry itself is making. And so I think that we can look to like other fields for like what can be done.
Yeah, like maybe there should be a union. That does seem to be what a lot of people are taking away from this. So like Lizette Teacher Montgomery, another friend of the Game Center who's been here visiting us before, pointed out that along with a lot of other people, like, is it time to actually stop talking about how incredibly successful the industry is and really think about how to support the workforce? Maybe it's time to have a union. A lot of people are saying this. And so I don't know. Like, I'm not an economist, despite the fact that I've balanced game economies. It makes me absolutely unqualified to understand why these things are happening. My impression is that, it's that the sudden conservatism of various giant companies, the tech industry, like even this university, right, which also went through a union negotiation period, pays both our graduate workers and adjuncts more now, and then got like really nervous. Well, has been nervous about the budget at the beginning of the pandemic, and now got really nervous again. I guess because of inflation, like people keep saying, money is expensive now. Which I sort of understand what that means. It means that there are not like billionaires and venture capital firms just throwing around piles of money like they were for the last couple of years. And so now these companies are like, oh shoot, there's no piles of money anymore. Oh, panic, run around, because everything is debt. It's like everything's run by debt now, right? Yeah. So like everything is more precarious than it ought to be. And I guess my impression is, so when a lot of times people will say, well, a union isn't the solution to this problem, because that doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to lay people off, right? But at least they would have to think about it more. Like, that's my understanding of the principle. Like, they couldn't just throw their hands up willy-nilly and be like, oh, we don't have piles of money falling on us now. Let's quick fire a bunch of people.
Well, yeah, they take for granted that they have piles of people. They're like, the piles of money are gone, but we have piles of people, and we can kind of like manage that resource.
Right, we'll just use them interchangeably.
Yeah.
Push some of the people off the table until we get more money falling on it. Yeah. So like, it's like, no, don't do that. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the whole thing.
If the pile of people can say, like, if we work together, like, you can demonstrate the power of the pile of people.
Right.
This is getting away from me. I know the pile.
Yeah, no, I think it's not bad, right? Because it is like they're treating piles of money and piles of people as interchangeable. And really, human beings are not numbers, as we learned from the British series The Prisoner. So unionize, I guess, is the upshot from that. Let's see if, there's IATSE, one of the big sort of theatrical and stage unions, has been talking a lot with various people in the game industry, and there are sort of like surveys and sort of things that you can fill out, especially if you work at a large studio. The path to unionization of industries always seems very rocky, but I think everybody should look into it.
Yeah.
Another thing that was pointed out by Lizette and a few others was that the looming threat of artificial intelligence, right? Which a lot of especially voice actors and mocap actors have been concerned about, and also artists, right? In fact, some of this I noticed in some of Lizette's hot takes, there are people saying, well, programmers aren't worried about AI. We're all just using it already in like GitHub Copilot or whatever. But yeah, so maybe we should unionize separately. You guys are really threatened by AI. But if you read like this CNN article, this is CNN, right? Like big news media, and they're basically like, AI is going to change game development. I read this and I was like, I don't really buy it.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I when I was looking for articles for the Discourse, I found like the counter article to this where it was just somebody clowning on it and being like, this is terrible. If you like listen to it for more than 5 seconds, like the AI text to speech like doesn't sound very good.
Right. Oh, well, was that about that the game, The Finals?
Yeah.
Yeah, I almost put that in here. Maybe we should have because like so the article that's not in this lineup is what were these critiques of this game where they had just done text to speech and they had all sorts of weird pauses. It basically sounded like one of those old automated phone recordings, right? A little better, but like
yeah, slightly. Like if I would just assume it was badly edited. If I wasn't thinking about AI, I would have been like, oh, the editor sucks, and just like cut these clips really, really weirdly or something. Like, and I actually found that kind of heartening. And then I read this and I was like, oh, well, okay. I guess we can also take it that way.
The nightmare scenario is that it's both kind of bad and janky. And big companies are like,
we don't
you know what? Let's push these piles of people off the table and buy ourselves a chunk of hard, cold AI. Mm-hmm. People, I guess people are right to be worried about it. There are so many flaws in it that I think for some of these use cases that they're talking about here, it's just so janky that the near-term case is usually like, oh, it made something, but we need a human being to spend twice as long to fix it. Which is also kind of a horrible scenario. But our neighbor, right down the hall this way, Julian Tegalius, is quoted in this article as saying, if you have an NPC come up with dialogue, it might be like really awkward and say messed up things. Which is like, it was like, have you seen generated chat? It's some of it is pretty weird. And would you really want it to just say whatever? I think this is why the Portopia serial murder case. One of Kojima's first games was recently re-released. Was it by? I forget which. By Konami or Square, so whoever owns the rights to it. I think it's Square owns the rights to it now. And they tried to replace some dialogue with AIs, but they had to yank it immediately because it just started saying random things, right? Because that's like what it's programmed to do.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see the next wave of games, whether we have games coming out where it's like, in this game is an entity that says random disturbing things, and that's what the game is about. So those games are definitely coming out, and then I think maybe we'll start to find out, is this actually going to be an influence on game development somehow, and can human beings actually control it before business people come up with the worst idea ever to save money?
As they are wont to do.
As they are wont to do. You might even say that that's what they're paid to do by capitalism.
Weird.
All right. So one more article about AI. This is the one I find. I have been following this kind of case closely because it's like the sort of wonky thing that makes my brain spin. And it's the whole question of, can copyright law be used to stop generative AI from overrunning everything? And my conclusion has been, no, it can't, because this is not what copyright law was made for. And so this is an interesting article from The Hollywood Reporter where they are following a case by some artists against image diffusion models that make various like large-breasted women with 10 fingers. Is sort of the specialty of this type of AI, right? And the judge was basically poking a lot of holes in the plaintiff's arguments and saying, you are going to have to demonstrate that there are compressed copies of images inside this model, which seems impossible, frankly, because it's just not big enough, right? And I don't really see how you can claim these are derivative works. They don't really look enough like your works for you to claim them. And so it's just copyright law was not made for this. It's going to have to wait on something else, I don't know, possibly semi-misguided government regulation.
I feel like that's that's ultimately what's going to have to happen. It's going to be probably crappy law, but our laws aren't sufficient to deal with this. Like, we just like don't have like a point of reference. I understand like the point of like the legal field is to find points of reference to find the precedent, but like I just think it's like so out of the realm of what we're used to when talking about like ownership of an idea in art that like
or somebody making something. It's like, no, that doesn't like mean anything in this case, right? Yeah, people like learn to do things. Like, what does that mean in this case? No, we don't know. Like, throw the legal dictionary out the window. But a lot of there are copyright experts in law schools and things like that who are like, yeah, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. So I don't know. I'm sort of watching it with interest, like a bit of a car crash. Yeah. So last real-life horror thing before we try to turn away from the horrific a little bit would be you suggested this article, right? This is maybe the coda to the Unity horror.
Yeah.
There was a sort of inside story. I'll see if here it is. Inside the runtime fee fiasco, and there's sort of a little rundown here at the top. But it basically was like the real noteworthy thing here is that, as some people suspected, the whole thing was driven by Unity's horrible kind of like grafted on ad solution.
Yeah, like it was confirmation of a lot of speculation that people were having. Like in the realm of horror stories, it's like a horror story where it's like trying to get outside of a house or something, and there's a monster inside, and everybody is trying to get away, and people are making bad decisions. It kind of looks like what was happening internally.
Right.
There was one part I also found kind of, again, darkly funny, where a mobile developer is like, oh, my contact with IronSource was basically threatening at one point of like, you're not going to get this money anymore, and he was like actually like interpreting that conversation in like a really like the best light possible of like, oh, Unity is like working on some technology to really try to get us away from app loving, and I wonder what that's going to be, and maybe we'll change. Like, no.
It's not a carrot after all.
No carrot. Only stick.
It only stick. It's like, if you don't stop using our competitor for your ads, we're going to like charge you until you bleed. Yeah, wow. I'm so surprised that didn't work out. And the other funny thing, I mean, this is also not surprising, but it's sort of stark to see it confirmed that none of this runtime fee stuff ever really was going to apply to the biggest, hugest mobile companies like King or whoever, because it's just noted right here in this article that, yes, those, like a large enough company just negotiates their own deal with Unity, and it's just a business deal like with private terms. And none of the standardized stuff applies to them, and also none of this stuff ever really applied to like the smallest end of like
it was just
indie
the
developers.
people in the middle.
Right. It was like that is I guess this is the industry equivalent of what they call like a middle class tax, right? Yeah. It's like doesn't really affect the richest people, the hugest companies, or the smallest people, but like all those people in the middle are like squeezed, right? Yeah. And those are considering layoffs and stuff, the mid-sized studio is always sort of like the most endangered,
the most
game
precarious
studio.
situation.
Yeah, super precarious. So I guess that sort of explains it all in hindsight, and then also they just rushed it out without consulting anybody internally.
They were like, "Oh, did you talk to people about this?" And like, "Yeah, we talked to people. Oh, we've talked to so many people." And then they're like, "I don't think you talked to people."
They all said, "No, hold on, wait," and we were like, "Okay, let's go ahead and do it." Yeah. So there's a cautionary fable, I guess. Okay, we are almost out of time, but I think we can look at. Well, let's look at two more things quickly. First, I want to recommend a long read for any of you who really want to read about weird tech bros. And so this bald guy who's heads there, this Mark Andreessen, he's one of the most powerful venture capitalists funding tech startups. He runs Y Combinator. He's like the person behind Firefox and Mozilla and all of that stuff. But really, he just throws around a ton of money from his venture capital firm. And I think this is worth paying attention to because this is Ezra Klein, fairly prominent journalist, basically reading through Mark Andreessen's manifesto, which we mentioned last week on the Discourse, and saying, hey, this is like a weird philosophy that he is calling, what is he calling it again? Reactionary futurism. which I thought was a great term. It's like both. Yeah, I want technology to accelerate so fast that now we have AIs running everything, but also it's going to take us back into a glorious past where men take their shirts off and pummel each other with their fists, and we say, "Roar, we're brave, we're gonna go out into the stars and conquer." It was like, oh my god, this is so spot on, and also just makes me want to like put my head on the table.
Yeah, no, I just started reading this one before we went on. I wanted to keep going because it's really fascinating to have somebody articulate this, because the really like high up tech bros are so weird about this. They're weird, like masculine, like manifest destiny, like view of their world. And you know, I actually do agree with one thing that this guy said about Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk fighting is good. I agree. I also think it's good. I think they should fight, but for very different reasons.
A lot of people were looking forward to that for different reasons, you know.
But yeah, I want to dig more into this because I think he's definitely onto something here.
Yeah, especially when you think about the unfortunate fact that like people like this are like make decisions that affect a lot of the rest of us who are working in games or software or whatever. It's disturbing to think about it, but also at the same time somehow deeply, deeply predictable.
Oh yes.
Right, and so yeah, it's articulating something that maybe is good to know. Okay, very final thing. I want to give a shout out to Aaron Friedman, who suggested this Super Mario Brothers article in the New York Times, which is such a funny, cute little article. This article is basically a New York Times journalist who usually like writes about very different subjects, basically going through, here's a history of Mario's power-ups. Here are all the different kinds of power-ups that Mario gets. Some of them turn Mario into a little bit like an animal or a lot like an animal. Other ones make you faster or let you shoot things. And I don't know, it's like maybe feel like I was seeing a small cute puppy. But it's an article.
Yeah, no, because like I feel like, you know, when you talk about like an easy thing that's like sort of like fake deep to talk about with games, it's always like, oh, Mario is just about doing drugs, and like Tetris is about the working class.
Right, because you're like eating all these power-ups that like do freaky things to you.
And so like it's like a long form version of it, and yeah, it's kind of cute. I you know.
I was trying to figure. So Aaron Friedman suggested this article because he was like, "What is this really meh video game coverage?" And my interpretation is that this is being written for like people in the average New York Times readership, like average age 58, who are like, "I've heard about Mario. I saw people playing that 30 years ago." And they just don't know anything about Mario. And now they'll read this and be like, oh, I know about the power-ups now.
Yeah, I can connect with my grandchildren and children. I agree. I don't know if we have time, like Frank's talk, like talking about like why it's so hard for mainstream people to talk about games. I think it has a lot to do with their productness and like the way that they are like similar to toasters, not in the sense of like being a machine, but similar in the way that like they're kind of like made the way we make toasters and microwave ovens that like, you know, they're sold to people, and like a part of that is the like the mechanics of Mario is like a lot about eating, and so like how can you take this very like product oriented mechanic that's like in Mario and like talk about it in an interesting way that like the average person will also kind of be familiar with, like they know about mushrooms probably vaguely.
They sort of know what this is, right? But now they can be like, oh, okay, cool, I see the various dimensions of this. Yeah, so I guess I'm kind of sold in the idea that, maybe this is a building block in better, more thoughtful coverage of games. Somewhere in the mix. But it's so funny that this is like the New York Times article of the week about video games. All right, I think we should wrap it up there. We went a little over time, but Logan gave me permission to sometimes do this, if necessary. So thank you so much, Logan. Thanks to our captioners and to everybody out there in chat. And we'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Naomi and Karina for that special Halloween edition of the Discourse. This has been Game Center Live. I realized just now I didn't update the credits. That's my own horror story for today's Halloween special of Game Center Live. Don't believe what you see on the screen. Today, your hosts and guests were Rowan Wood, Charles Pratt, Naomi Clark, and Karina Popp. Thanks all very much. We'll be back in 2 weeks on, I believe, let me check the calendar really quick, November 14th, Tuesday, November 14th for the next episode of Game Center Live. Take care, and we'll see you next time.